But and that's why I went to get one.
I think you just need to pay your own.
Mike?
I'm telling you, I was.
Oh, let me do that real quick. Oh. Right? So if you drag it off.
It's not my problem.
Okay, if I could have your attention, please. We do appreciate being here bright and early this morning, and we have a special guest, as you know, talk to us. Before I turn the time over to him, I wanted to tell you a few things. First of all, they're trying, our technology department's trying out equipment. Try and use microphones, cameras. So or if you can, but if you have a question, if you have the question, you have a mic. Am I forgetting anything, Mr. Gardner? Sheriff Klaus is the sheriff, and he's brought some today. Before I turn the time over to him, well, I wanted to let you know they've already committed again this year to our grad night. That senior party. Appreciate the fact that he time over to him, and following him, I do have just wanted to provide our under.
Thank you. Like I said, my name is David Klaus. I'm the sheriff. Today with me I have Wiley Williams, black shirt, District Lieutenant for Holbrook and Winslow, what we call District 1. And then we have Sergeant Ron Chisholm in the uniform there. He's the area sergeant for Joseph City, and also one of our school resource officers, but he's attended a lot of school safety trainings and is one of our school liaisons for Joseph City and Heber Overgaard. Like Superintendent Field said, don't have to thank me for those donations. Thank these hard deputies and the workers that disrupt and dismantle these drug traffickers that bring those drugs and that illegal substance into our communities. Those are asset seizures that we've taken from there, and we'd like to distribute those back into the community, especially our schools, because we feel that the drug traffickers are targeting students, they're targeting young kids, they get them hooked on these drugs, and then they are now lifelong customers or clients of theirs. And if we take that money that was used to traffic drugs and then we use it to teach kids to stay off drugs, or we give an alternative to drug use, we think it's money well spent. And we like to, what we call, invest in the schools and invest in those programs so we don't have to. We see a reduction in our calls. But anyways, I'm glad, I understand this is a special meeting for us. I thought it was just going to be one of the, where we could take a few minutes of your guys' training time. And I wanted to come and introduce ourselves, and that way you could put a face or a name with a face, and with also our deputies in the area. That way you guys become more familiar with who we are and the services that we provide for your community, not only in Joseph City, but also for this school. Two of our biggest priorities at the Sheriff's Office is school safety. I think everyone here is a parent, and we all have kids in schools throughout this county, and it's a priority to us. As we see the school safety issues across the country, it always causes me, and it causes all of us in law enforcement to always make sure that we're doing the best that we can. We're staying proficient in our training, and working closely with the school districts. So in Navajo County, our two priorities are, of course, Heber Overgaard and Joseph City. Those are our two, and I understand that's your rival too in sports, right? So we have to split our allegiance sometimes to both, but Joseph City and Heber Overgaard are our largest unincorporated areas in the county. And so not only for law enforcement services for you folks that live here, but also the school district here in Joseph City and Heber Overgaard. We put a lot of attention to that, and we just wanted to come share our commitment to you that we are here for you. Even though we do not have a school resource officer, we do have deputies. Our sheriff's office is located here closely in Holbrook, and we have staff there around the clock, and we're always just a phone call away. And we also, means we don't have a school resource officer. I know you have a lot of special events, school sporting events on weekends, after hours. Please reach out to Wiley, reach out to Ron, I know we already have deputies because we do monthly reports, and we're always looking at how often we're in the communities and we're at those special events. But if there's something that comes up and you really want a deputy at that, or you want some of our volunteers and you want somebody assigned to that, just give us a call. Of course, don't do it 2 hours before the event, but if it's an after school program, if it's a sports program, please call us. As much time is better, and then they can get it on the schedule and make sure we're probably staffed heavy that day, and we'll try to get somebody over here. And if there's ever a threat that you get or information or intelligence that comes in and you see something that, hey, we really need to have because we may have I've kind of been following, there's been some unruly parents at some wrestling tournaments this year. And so if you ever have anything like that and you see something might come up, please call us, and then we'll have a presence there. And one thing I like to relate to is, you know, your guys's your commitment is to education, right? You guys are here to educate students. It's reading, writing, and learning. And sometimes this other stuff, this side stuff, school safety, where do you find the time? Where do you get the extra time for training like that? And it's the same thing for us within the sheriff's office. We're always dedicated to taking our calls for service. Then all of a sudden, the county says, hey, we need to do some training on IT. We need to do training on cybersecurity, then or contact with the coronavirus. And so as the sheriff's office or leadership of the sheriff's office, we're like, how do we squeeze that extra time into when we devote it away from what we're supposed to do, because we're trying to keep our deputies on the road for as long as amount as possible. And so I understand that's a struggle for you guys to peel some time away for deputies to come in and do training, or for us to do a district-wide training, which would be probably most beneficial to us. But we understand that every school district's different. We work with not only Joseph City and Heber Overguard, but we work with the city of Holbrook, and we'll work with the city of Show Low and Snowflake and our reservation schools. And everybody's everybody's needs are different between all those schools. Some districts are more spread out, or a lot of more campuses are closer together. And we understand that so our approach to each school is not always going to be the same. But our approach from our perspective as the deputies, we're going to be doing our active shooter training and our investigative training, how we respond to those types of things. But your needs are going to be a little different. And so that's why we like to have that one-on-one with school staff and principals, and that way we understand what you guys want and how we best want to approach it. Some don't want to have a heavy presence, and they don't want to have a lot of uniformed officers with long guns, and it kind of seems a little overbearing. And we get that, and so we're sensitive to those types of needs. Some of them want to see us in the schools quite often. They want us to walk through the schools. They want us to go to lunch with the students and interact, and then they bring us in and they ask us to do active shooter training. They want us to be part of their lockdowns. And so we're offering that. Whatever you guys want in your individual schools, we'll meet your needs. Of course, we'll give our recommendations, what we feel is best, but I think what's the one lockdown per semester is kind of the state. Is that mandated by the state? And if you want to do 2 or 3, if you want to do them at random, we'll do them. And if you want the deputies here to be part of that and to kind of time those and kind of look for different areas of improvement, we're always open to that. Wiley and I, we worked together for a long time in Heber Overguard. That was one of my first patrol areas, and we built a great relationship with the schools and the school staff, and then we had the flexibility. We would just show up there and say, hey, we feel like doing a lockdown, and we would just initiate that lockdown right there. I get it. It disrupts education. It goes back to what I said before. It disrupts what your purpose is here. You guys want to teach these kids. You have a lot of curriculum to get through. But we also, one of the things that keeps us up, keeps me up at night, keeps many of the deputies, is how that we don't want to ever see stuff that we see across the country, whether it's 1 or 50. It's just one too many, and We just want to constantly have a presence here and be around the schools. And we want it to be where the students, when they see us and they see a marked unit here or they see a uniformed deputy, that it's not like, whoa, what's going on today? Because we get it. When we walk into a school, people are like, I didn't do it. You know, it's kind of jokingly always say that. And, you know, it's funny sometimes, but we sometimes can be a distraction to the students. But I think if we're here more often and we're more visible, then they start recognizing us as not just a uniformed officer, but they say, well, that's David Klaus or that's Ron Chisholm and Wiley, and they start knowing us individually, and they start trusting us, and then they start building that relationship. And then plus, it also helps us in our investigations. I know another big part of the services that we need to provide for your school in this community is investigative services. If there's any bullying, crimes against children, if there's suspected abuse, neglect, sexual abuse at home, I know you guys are mandatory reporters, and that information needs to be shared with us, and that we need to come in and initiate an investigation. And the more that we have that interaction with the school and the school district, then the better off, or not the better off, but the better handled these investigations are handled. So, and then another thing that I would like to offer too is drug prevention and drug education and school presentations. We talked a little bit about that drug money or that asset money that we seize and that we want to invest back in the kids. But also we want to come in and we want to give school presentations. We want to give a canine presentation. The best canine handler we have lives here in Joseph City. You guys all know who he is, a lot of big smiles. Danny Dietz, he's a well educated, he's a professional with handling and drug interdiction and drug presentations. We offer those services at any time. Sometimes we've had school sports programs throughout the county reach out to us and ask us to come talk to their football team or their wrestling team, basketball team, and talk to them about the dangers of drugs and the taking care and our perspective, what we see, and the rise in vaping. We get a lot of intelligence that comes in that. It's not just the vaping with nicotine, but we're seeing vaping with marijuana. We're seeing vaping with fentanyl. We're seeing vaping with methamphetamine. And all those things, believe it or not, could be introduced into your school. And so those are things that we want to come teach the teachers and teach the staff, is look for those signs that you may see in a student as you start seeing them more sleepy or more active or more fidgety. There's little things that the body behaviors that we would like to share with you to say, hey, these could be signs of illegal drug use. So those school presentations and Heber and Joseph City are our priorities in giving those. If we get some on the other school districts or on the reservation, we always, Heber and Overguard get first priority in anything like that. Trying to think of what else. And then more importantly, not only lockdown training, but when we're talking active shooter training or critical incident training. Not so much of, we want you guys to understand how we are going to respond and what that response is going to look like from us. We do our own individual training on the side, not involving staff or students. And those are some of the things that we don't like to share, not because it's a secret, but we don't want to share with students because oftentimes students can be one of those that may be the threat. I'm not saying anybody at Joseph City is that, but what I'm saying is we've seen across the country that if we share that information with students, then the students then know how to counteract that if they're planning some sort of attack. So a lot of the training that we do is going to be off campus or after hours, and that's what us and the deputies and firefighters work together. It's how we're going to respond. But part of that, we also need to share that with you folks. We need the school and the school staff to understand what it's going to look like when we show up, how long it's going to take. what is the kind of the aftermath, the investigation, how long that could take, the reunification with parents, and how long could you expect to be out of the school? How long are we going to have that quote unquote locked down or barricaded for a investigation? And those are things that we have to, those are the parts that we need to work together on. And so those are important things to put into your school safety plan or your school safety program, and then you can make preparations for the future on that. Next, I'm going to turn some time over to Deputy Chisholm. Deputy Chisholm has taken place in some ALICE training. I don't know how many people have heard of ALICE training, but this is something that if you look for something to be more uniform across the state or across the county, that we feel we could invest in, and we think it would be very beneficial. We've seen a lot of counties across the state of Arizona utilize this, and I've dove into it a little bit and feel like it would be a good fit for us here in Navajo County. And Deputy Chisholm has taken some training, some train the trainer type stuff, and it's a program that we're looking to implement here across Navajo County. So Deputy Chisholm? He's like, well, thank you.
My name is Ron Chisholm. I actually live in Winslow, but Joe City's part of my area, and so is the reservation. Sheriff Klaus sent me and another deputy to this training. It's called ALICE training. It's alert, lockdown, inform, counter, and evacuate. It's no more, it's getting away just from sitting in the classroom with the doors locked. If you can get out of the school, out of your business, whatever, get out. Don't just sit there and wait for whoever to come to your door. And in this program, we can actually, the school can actually buy into the program, and then which in that case, you guys would have to do some online stuff, training, and then the school district would get certified through ALICE, and that could be for like your insurance purposes, stuff like that. Or we can come in and just teach, and it's not a certification, it's just teaching you guys. We don't have to certify you. And actually last week I just went to a threat liaison training for a week. And in that class I just learned that state has a grant out that actually he's going to send me to a 2-day class in two weeks to be able to come in and do threat assessment for the schools. And for this grant, you actually need a threat assessment before you can apply for the grant. The lockdown, like I said, the ALICE, basically in the if you do just go to lockdown, we can show you how to properly lock down your classroom, how to barricade the door, how to use belts, ropes, actually a fire hose on some of those doors with the hinges on top. You could use a fire hose to stop that thing from opening if you don't have locks. Or if you got like a little window where they could bust the window and get to the lock, we could still use that, and that will keep them from getting in. And basically the inform is basically you want to alert people as they come in. If, you know, like say they're going to most likely come by the office. So you try to announce what's happening. Then you go to your lockdown. And then you go to start informing, you know, call us, call, you know, the other school, whatever. Then you counter, if you can. We actually have classes for elementary school too, to teach the kids what to do and what not to do. We can go all the way to kindergarten each. And the counter is more like your high school kids, if they can. If somebody comes in this room and we barricade the door, they still get through. The counter is basically you're fighting, and you're using anything and everything you got in this room to distract them. Once you distract them, you can take them down. If somebody can't shoot you, if they're trying to dodge chairs, books, and everything else. And then evacuate. And basically, somebody comes in, like I say, the high school. Somebody comes in the office area. The shop classes and stuff like that in the back, yeah, you guys go to lockdown. They can actually leave, get out of here. to get away from the school. And anybody else, we've had a school like Sequoia. We went and did this class for Sequoia, and they have several outer buildings, and there basically was lockdown. They just stay and put, and we were like, those guys can all leave, get out of there, and then we just have to worry about the main building. One of the big, I can't find it in this one yet. One of the big things was the Virginia Tech shooting. That's what turned a lot of heads, was the second floor, the gunman was going through classrooms. One of the classrooms he went into was just locked down. He was able to get in. Everybody in there died. Second classroom he went into, teacher, student barricaded the door, held the door. Everybody jumped out of the second floor window. The only people they got hurt in that one was the teacher and the student. That's one of the big things they taught us in the class, was that's showing you if you get out, there's more possibility of less people dying or getting hurt. So yeah, if you guys want the classes, they're working on, like I said, the class I just went to, one of the instructors was part of this, and they're working on a 4-hour presentation that we can do, and it's not the certification thing. And we can come in, give your class, we can start with just the teachers, and then if you want to go to students or, then we can work on programs for them. But it's like I said, it's just getting away from everybody just, thinking that they have to stay in their classroom. Any questions?
Real such. I don't know. Like, you're supposed to have them escape, but like.
Well, that's what you guys have. You guys have areas where you tell them to meet us. Okay, if we have to evacuate the school, meet at the fire station, or if it's the high school, meet at the elementary school, and then hopefully they all do it. Okay. But yeah, you have areas where, okay, if I tell you to evacuate, you run. They're supposed to be there. And then, like I said, even in the when we come in just to do teachers, we actually do simulations. And we do it with the kid once we start with the kids too, but we do simulations. We actually have you guys, we like use your classroom, use your building, whatever. And we have to show you, okay, we have a bad guy coming in. You guys go lock down, whatever, learn how to barricade the doors and stuff. Learn how you can get out. Learn how we bring in stuff like, the bad guy will have a Nerf gun. And he'll start shooting up and everything. And you'll have like rubber balls. That's what we had at the class. They give you rubber balls to throw at them to distract them and stuff, even like fake books. Just different stuff to distract them. And then everybody, once he start being distracted, you have other people that are going to grab him and take him down the ground and hold him. And then that's when we teach you don't grab the gun. If you do pick up the gun, you put it like in a trash can, you don't hold it, you get rid of it. And that way when we come in, we're not thinking you're the shooter. Anything else?
Anyway, I just see my window being right across where the door is. So if I'm trying to get kids out and he's got a gun, even if I've got it barricaded, he's shooting that direction. I'm like, that's the worst direction I can have my kids go in.
Well, that's where we come in and show you where's the best place to hide in your classroom. Okay. We can tell you how to barricade that window with the foot at least in front of it, and where the best place, if you had to lock down, where's the best place to be in that classroom. The corner, this corner, that corner, somewhere where he's not seeing directly at you. And like I said, the class I'm going to in a couple of weeks is that threat liaison, or It's threat assessment class, sorry. And I actually will, I could come in and we'd go, it takes several hours, and we come in and do assessment of the whole school, inside, outside. And then we we do the plan, we give it to you, and then you decide what needs to be done. Anything else?
How do you barricade a door
Like I
that
said,
swings
that's
out?
something we could come in and teach you. I mean, there's like the door handles on the doors. You can get a belt and tie onto the belt, and yeah, somebody's probably going to have to hold it. But that's the best way to do it. One of the ways to do it. And if it's one that swings out, sometimes they have those hinges up on top. That's when something like you take a belt or like the fire hose and put on there, so they can't pull. It won't pull open. And there's other things that you can actually, people are making all kinds of things now to barricade doors.
We've looked at some of those products too. They have like bars, and we've never got a definitive answer because, if somebody's already in there and they do that, they can actually trap people in. So that was one of the concerns. But yeah, we're interested in getting recommendations or whatever you guys have.
Give me that fire hose.
Where you'll see law enforcement and fire department kind of go contradict each other, because we're talking about lockdown security and the fire department's talking about a fire evacuation. You don't want that on there. So there's some things you have to weigh in emergency and consider, but this is what he's talking about.
Yeah, just piece of fire hose, old fire hose that was cut up, and you just slide over those hinges, and it won't open. We tried. You can pull on it and pull on it. It won't slide like you think it would slide, but it won't slide because it's rubber inside, so it holds. But, I mean, it's cheap.
But then you have to consider, like, if you had a student like Wiley who would play a joke around and, he's just smiling. He's like, yeah. But, and those are things that some schools are like, well, it's a good lockdown or active shooter defensive, but also we can't have the students playing around and do something.
Yeah, you'd put it somewhere where only the teacher or maybe a student aide would know.
We had a question. How would we make or get a hold of those?
I can talk to the fire department, see if they got old fire hose and see if they can cut it up. Or
First of all, I'd like to thank you guys for everything. This is good stuff. From the time this is my 30th year. From the time these things first started, there's been a lot of training and a lot of really good stuff that you guys are doing. One of my concerns was if they're usually coming through the office, is there a non-lethal, less than lethal? I know there's a lot of technology out there. They have things that can shoot out there and foam and all kinds of different stuff. Is there something for administrators that they could stop them before they ever got anywhere down the halls? And is that legal? There's a lot. Maybe I shouldn't have opened this Pandora's box, but
that's
just curious.
they've taught the counter, but nothing like with any kind of weapons or foam and all that stuff. Best thing to do is keep your doors locked, or keep the front doors locked. Get out of there. What I've seen at the high school is you guys leave one of those doors unlocked, and then they have access to the whole school. Winslow has several schools like that too. Once you get in that front door, there's nothing else to stop you. And I know at one time Winslow was supposed to build a second door. So they have to actually come through the front door, be buzzed in the second door. And that's something you guys could look at for actually both schools. Elementary school is great for that because the doors are already there.
Easy answers.
Right.
So I'm the woodshop teacher. Simple things kind of come back in in my thoughts. What about a sliding bolt at the top of the door?
Yeah, I mean, that's like something with the assessment thing we go through, and we basically give you guys a plan, and we suggest things, and then it's up to you, the school board, to implement some of the stuff.
And what kind of liabilities are there to teachers or staff that actually stop a shooter?
From the law perspective?
Well, I'm not going to be worried. I'm not going to be worried about it, but if you stop the shooter by whatever means, I'm the shop teacher.
Yeah.
And if I use a carpenter square on him or something like that,
there's nothing from people sometimes fear what is going to happen to me criminally or prosecution wise. You stopping a threat, there's no there's no threat from us. Now there's civil lawsuits that people can be subject to through the courts, but that's not a criminal prosecution for you stopping a threat.
Basically, do what you got to do, and anybody else? So if you guys want more information on it, you can go to this website. It's alicetraining.com, and you can go through there, and it shows videos and stuff like that, different schools that have gotten into this program. I know several of the Valley schools, a lot of them, are starting to implement this stuff. Okay, there's nothing else. Thank you.
And then just one last thing that I'd like to bring up too is the sharing of, and I kind of touched on it lightly, is our investigations. The sharing of information to our patrol deputies is crucial. I know a lot of you guys are on social media and you see your students on social media or vice versa. And I've learned since that there's some groups on social media that I know in Heber Overguard there was a group, I forget what it was called, but then some of the teachers were monitoring that, or their teachers, or their kids were on it, and then they would give them information. And that information being shared with us is critical. If you ever suspect a threat or see a threat, share that information with us. I don't know how many times we've taken these calls, and sometimes we're like, well, we didn't think much of it, but we just never want to be too complacent about it. Not that we're going to come down and this person is going to be expelled and they're going to be out of there, but we've had to remove kids. We've had to do very involved investigations where we've executed search warrants at residents. We've had how many? Sequoia, was it last year or 2 years ago? There was a lot of phone threats called in, and fortunately the deputies, they do an excellent job, and they start tracking that down, and it's anonymous, and boom, we end up having a name and a student, and we've had some on social media where they've made threats, and they posting pictures of Rambo. This is going to be me on Monday. I mean, that's just not funny anymore, right? And we've had to take some enforcement action on that, and kind of, I hate to use the word label or tag, but then we have to start looking at that person and put it into that this person has made those types of threats, and we as a law enforcement agency, we need to be aware of that, and we need to share that information not only with Holbrook and Winslow, but to all others in case the student moves to a different school, that this student has posted threats and has given verbal threats, but they haven't done a physical threat yet. But that's critical information, I think, and it always starts with the students, the staff, and the parents. We've even had parents call in too. And so if we don't hear that information, it's much harder for us to gather it. And Ron's part of the Arizona network, ACTIC, which is an Arizona network of sharing of information. And so we just ask you to always be mindful of that, and then call our dispatch and have a deputy come. And if the deputy takes a report, there's just a kind of a minor thing, and we'll just kind of document it as such. Then we, of course, always work with the principal, and the principals usually loop us in on it, but then we start looping our deputies in on it. Then if it's worse than that, then we'll obviously take the steps necessary to keep the community safe and keep the school safe. So any other questions? If not, that's kind of what we had presented, but more specifically, if we come back, we'd like to meet with the schools individually. Each campus, probably to do those threat assessments, each campus individually versus trying to do it as one uniform recommendation. I think it needs to be per build or per campus. So any other questions, not just about school safety, anything else to do with the sheriff's office? We'd be more than happy to answer it, or information. All right, well, thank you. I know it's Friday, and appreciate you guys. We appreciate the support we always get from Joseph City and the Joseph City High School District. Always deputies, well, you guys always welcome the deputies, and pleased to be part of your community. So thank you.
Okay, I did have just a few announcements, and it was great having you guys. Thank you very much. And we are interested in this. Currently, as you all know, we do the ADD, the Avoid, Deny, Defend, right, as part of our plan. And I think that this either, I don't know if it replaces it or adds to it, but we are interested. So thank you very much for that. And anything that will help us protect our kids and our staff, definitely. And we're not really rivals with Hebrew Overguard either. You know, they might beat us in football a few times, but we won't point out academically where we stand against them. But you can look if you want. So a little bit. So for the staff, here's just a few announcements. Spring break is coming up, of course. I wanted to just point that out. And as you know, our students are going to be missing for a week here, and it's our testing month. They've changed the name, in case you haven't been notified, to the AZM2 now, but it's AZ Merit still, basically. But that's what they're calling it. We have the aims at the and for science and all that. But we're looking forward to that. Hopefully our students are too. So that's the challenge. We have a couple of roofing projects that's going to be coming down and starting this month, actually. So one here at this campus and one at the high school. Big projects, but I don't think it'll interfere much with things that are going on. The pool will be heated here later this month, so that some classes will be in there. Maybe opportunity to swim if that's something you do. Budget planning for next year. I wanted to mention that. We are looking at that, trying to make preparations with staffing, and health insurance is a big thing we're looking at, and waiting for some quotes and information on the plans before final decisions are made. The governing board did approve a raise at the last meeting, and we're going to look at the budget and go from there. It looks good, but they aren't done at the state level yet with setting their budget. So that's something we really have to look at and consider before we do much more. You know, the fancy equipment that this might be this is the first time I've seen it out too. I wanted to mention this is kind of a benefit of that substance prevention grant that the district's doing. And the event next week that we're holding is Wednesday night at 7, and Deputy Dietz, the one that was referenced by the sheriff here, he's going to be one of the speakers. They're going to have a panel of about 4 speakers to talk about the risks of substance abuse and what we can do to and answer questions. It's interactive. It's going to be broadcast live. I don't know if it's on YouTube now or if that got changed to something on our website. I heard it's going to I'll be here, so I'm not going to log in to watch. Go ahead.
Is it appropriate for students?
Yeah, they're targeting students and families. And so they don't even have to be here, though. They could watch it. Go ahead.
Yeah, we have or will have, literally within the next few days, we have a section on our website that's dedicated to the Youth, Faith, and Family program. And if someone will just, you can just go to our website, go to that page, and then on there, they'd be able to click. There's just a big, a screen insert on there that you click it to watch. That's on the left side. Over on the right side is a place where if you have a question, when the appropriate time comes to ask questions, you can type it in, and it'll pop up here with the moderator in this room, and it'll be read out to the group here. So
cool.
And at some point will be available on as a video on YouTube for later viewing as well. So.
Great, thank you. And probably going to continue that, make it available for different programs in the community after hours, maybe some Friday activities, things like that. But that's it's a good program, and it's nice that it's going to be.
There it is. You're looking at the at our website. So that's what the screen would look like. And you, let's see, Jason, can you start from the home page and show them how to get there?
That's the home page right there.
Well, the home, the home page. Can you start from the home page there, and we'll just click into that just so you can. If somebody asks you, you can describe it. So go back to there you go. Okay, so when you enter, type in jcusd.org, of course you'll get this page, and then the next place you click will be right here, where it says Youth, Faith, and Family, right at the top of that side panel. And once you click there, then you get to the screen, and it will go down. There you go. Then that's what you click on that to watch it over here. Really easy to use.
I appreciate that, Mr. Mills. The sheriff kind of opened it up for questions, but I not completely, and I didn't want to put him on the spot to answer things. Maybe he wasn't prepared, but I do want to let you know one thing that we're looking at is non-lethal means to stop an attacker or intruder to the campus. And I'm open to getting input. You could share it with your principal, email, letter, however you want to share. They have products out now that we're looking at maybe putting in the offices. There's training that goes with them, but it's like spray, mace spray. It's not mace spray, but it's similar to what you think of when you see that.
If you carry a mace in your purse, you could use it if it came into your classroom?
Right now, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Unless are you telling me you have mace in your purse? Because that changes things. I don't know about any mace in your purse.
I have it in my car, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, we're not supposed to have any weapons here at school currently. So there's a policy against any weapons, and employees actually can receive disciplinary action for having weapons. I'm sure that would, mace is. Yeah, I've never had that question. That's why he didn't want to open it up for. I'm not afraid to look stupid. Jim, what do you got? Real quickly, because we got. Oh, you didn't have one. Okay. But anyway, so we're looking at non-lethal stuff. That's an expense, and there's some training that goes along with that. I'm going to let the school board know, let them weigh in on it, get their opinion, maybe at the site councils. The principals will throw it out there as well, just to get some input. And you're welcome to share input on that if you want it in classrooms or maybe at the front office, or you think, no, it's a bad use of funds, whatever. Just quickly, a couple of electric vehicle stations might be going in at this parking lot here at this campus. Just so you know, if everything goes smooth, maybe by like June, July. Those would be there. We don't, as a district, we don't have electric vehicles at this point. We may someday, even a bus. They do make buses like that now. If an employee has an electric vehicle and they want to plug in there, this is what this is a benefit. It's at no cost to us, basically, unless somebody plugs in, and then we'll figure that out. But the type of charger they're putting in. No, does anyone have an electric vehicle? I should ask. It's not going to take away parking spaces, so we could still park there. You don't have to have an electric vehicle. We're going to have a key that locks it up, or not. We can make a decision about that. It charges twice as fast, is what I was going to say. So, than what it would at home. So, just something we're putting in. It'll increase the infrastructure a little bit to the school, and maybe if there's funding and we already have some infrastructure in place, maybe it would help us there. Buses, there's actually a bus parking lane right where the stations are going to go, by the cafeteria. But anyway, COVID-19, formerly known as the coronavirus. Every time I say that, I think of the artist formerly known as Brent, but not related at all. I'm dating myself, yeah. So you may have some questions. I did just want to bring this out. It is something very serious. And, it's hard. It depends on what news feed you're watching. I've heard people made it a point to tell me this is all fake news, and then other things are, this is serious. It's going to devastate the country. So I think we play it safe and sorry, and that's what I've told people. Go through the training, the workshops, get information, and go from there. We're trying to make, and you've probably, I sent an email out to all staff about it. Any questions you have on that? Updates? There's been a couple of cases now in Arizona. What I've heard from people like the state superintendent and the county health department, the Arizona Rural Schools Association, youth aren't a high-risk population that have been casualties or fatalities from this yet. People that are elderly or with illness or respiratory problems have had more casualties than youth. Rural areas, one of those agencies said aren't suspected to be as hit as hard as urban areas. I don't know if that's one. I believe that's kind of sounded like it was maybe subjective or whatever, but those are some of the things I've heard about this. We're trying to keep our facilities clean, educate students, things of this nature. But any questions on this virus? Go ahead.
This weekend where we will be around, is there any precautions we should take as a team, or just stay away from everyone? No, just tell them back the heck off from us, or because there will be 54 teams there from around the state.
That is a great question. I would so it's passed through spit and mucus, is what I understand. Right. Taking is a good question, and Mr. Bushman already has a comment. I would just say maybe we could get you some hand sanitizer to take and some wipes to use on the equipment and on the bus, and you just those type of things. And we're also talking about the senior trip and stuff, by the way, just so you guys know. But go ahead, Mr. Bushman.
My wife has looked into this extensively because that's what she does. The biggest way to fight it is like any other flu. Wash your hands before you eat, and don't be stupid.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Fake news, right?
I don't want to embarrass any students, but can we have hand washing training and how long to scrub and how to scrub? Because in the restroom, you hear students, they either don't or don't wash their hands very well. Well, it's a lot further away.
Yeah,
I think so. It's a good comment, and I'll let the school principals do that. Mr. Hutchins just left, but yeah. Okay. Yeah. A little bit of training on that, I think, would be fine. You know, kids need to know, and it's not, you know, socially acceptable to use the restroom and not wash your hands. That's not just a problem with students, by the way. I've seen people do that, and what it is, just teaching them to be aware of germs. Our science teachers would fill us in on all that stuff that floats around. It's bad. I don't know what's going to happen with the senior trip. That's usually not out of state anymore. But our field trips and things, we're not canceling anything at this point. But we're definitely not afraid to do that. And I don't know at what point we're going to get recommendations. The county said they don't want to make any recommendations for school closures. Those will be at a local level. So when that decision comes, it's kind of like in my opinion, the substance prevention. It's easier to maybe take precautions before you have a big problem than later. So we're trying to put energy and time and resources up front here with cleaning materials and things. So, but those are great comments. I appreciate it. Mr. Hutchins left. Did you have any announcements for the whole staff or Mr. Mills? Anybody? Okay. Meeting's over. Thank you very much. Mr. Miller, do you have I got to show you this in there.